Hey guys, it's Ashley Wyszynski here. Hope you're doing well. I wanted to hop on real quick and offer you guys a screen share tutorial of how to use this real estate investment calculator that you can find it in the file section of the Real Estate Freedom Facebook group. So I just wanted to go through and show you exactly how you can put this to use when you're analyzing deals in your investing life. So let's go ahead and get started. So up top, you're going to want to first put in the property address. So I'm just going to, put something in there. If you're looking at a property on the MLS, the multiple listing service, or looking at a property through a realtor, you can go ahead and type in here the MLS number. It can, help keep you a little bit organized. Another way to keep you organized is when you're done inputting this information into the sheet, I want you to go ahead and save it and change the name to the property address's name and save it in your specific folder on your computer where you save all of your investment calculators to. It'll just help keep you organized, and if you need to go back and update numbers afterwards, you won't have to go through and re-enter all of these numbers. Okay, so once you've got the information about the property in, you can go ahead and start entering in these numbers. For this example, we're going to go ahead and say under the property description that the listed price is $500,000. That's how much the seller wants to sell the property for. The city or the town assessment, let's just say that's $450,000. Typically, I don't use this section that much. I just hop right on down to here. So you'll see this is all the information about the financing. So expected sales price. I like to start running the numbers at worst case scenario so that I can determine, okay, if the owner wants $500,000, is it worth me paying the owner that much money? Can I still make the numbers work? I'm not saying that you should start by offering full price unless you really, really want the deal. But it's just good to know that if you can make the numbers work at the full purchase price, that maybe it's worth buying this property. So down here, down payment percentage. So you've got to determine what your ideal or most likely financing program is going to require going to require for the down payment percentage. So most conventional financing and commercial financing that you'll find specifically for an investment property that you're not going to live in is going to be 25% down. So you're just going to go ahead and enter that number right into the sheet. If you are doing an owner finance deal and you're putting less down, just update this to what you're planning to do in the real world. When you put that number in there, this field here should calculate for you. You'll see some of the fields in here already have a calculation, a formula. So, don't go ahead and change these that have the formula already in there. It's there to make your life easier. So next we're going to go down and enter in the estimated interest rate that you're expecting to pay for the loan. This helps the calculator, estimate the monthly payments for you. So, if you don't have an idea of what the current rates are for the type of financing that you're looking for, just call up a local lender or try and do a quick search online so that you have an idea and you can use a realistic number for what the market's at right now. The next digit that you're going to change is the number of years that you're planning to finance a property for. I always recommend that if you can finance property conventionally with conventional financing, do that because typically the rates are lower, and if it makes sense for your goals, you can stretch the term out to a 30-year mortgage. So for this example, let's just assume we're going to shoot for conventional financing, and we'll just put that in there for 30 years. Okay, let's see what's next. So you'll see here private mortgage insurance monthly. So if you were financing a property and putting less than 20% down, this typically doesn't happen unless you're going to live in the property. you may have to pay something called private mortgage insurance. So if you were going to pay that, you'd enter that amount in here so that it could be calculated into your monthly payments. Like I mentioned, in most investment property scenarios, it's not an option to have private mortgage insurance. Okay, so the monthly payment, this is another one where they calculate the payment for you. So don't change this and don't change the field that's right below it, because that calculates your annual payment based on what you've put into the system so far. Okay, so next we're going to move on over to fixed expenses. Let's just stay in the expense category, and you'll see all of the expenses are up here. Okay, so fixed expenses, property taxes. So, these are typically paid to the town, and they can be paid annually, quarterly. The town sets the requirements of how often they're paid. Sometimes you can escrow your taxes and insurance in with your monthly mortgage payment. So sometimes that means you write one payment to your mortgage company, and the mortgage company pays tax for the taxes and insurance. But if that's not an option, you will have to just pay the town and the insurance company directly. So let's say just for this scenario, property taxes are $7,000. So just like that, you just go ahead and enter it in. Property insurance, I'm going to estimate that at $1,700. Liability insurance is typically included in the property insurance that we've listed here. Typically, your property insurance is also going to include liability insurance. So I've combined both of those into this number here. This next line is to document association fees and special assessments. You'll see is right under that. Typically, you're not going to have these fees unless you're buying a condo in a condo association, or unless you're buying a property that has some sort of homeowners association that offers services to multiple homes at once. So sometimes specific properties may have like a road maintenance assessment fee that helps to cover, repaving or plowing. Typically not the case though. Okay, and then next we're down to city fees. So sometimes cities, towns, or even states require fees and possibly filing paperwork on an annual basis to keep up your, rental property and keep it up in good standing. So, two of the towns that we invest in require a $100 per year per unit fee, along with paperwork and sometimes an inspection. So let's assume that this unit that we're looking to buy is a 5 unit. So we'll just go ahead and leave those city fees at $500. Next is management costs. So it's important to determine what your plans are for management. If you're going to self-manage your property, you don't need to include any number in here for management. But if you are going to hire somebody, I definitely recommend reaching out to local property management companies so that you can just get an idea of what the going rate is for, ongoing quality property management. All right. So you'll see again down here, they take all these numbers, divide it by 12, and then multiply it by for the monthly, and then they multiply that by 12 to get the yearly payment or your yearly cost for your fixed expenses. Okay, let's hop on over to variable expenses. So these are expenses that can change from year to year. So hopefully most years you won't need to hire any legal help, to help with evictions or anything like that. Accountant, you'll need to include any costs that you have to pay, somebody to help you out with your books. If you do that by yourself, or if your property manager does that for you, you don't have to include anything here. The next line that you'll see is advertising and marketing. So let's say in your market, the best and quickest and most effective way to get a tenant is to advertise in the newspaper. You'd want to include some costs here for that expense, if that, is the way things are done in your area. Most of the time, in most locations, Craigslist is a great way to find new tenants and other, online options. Next, you'll see heat and electric here. So like I mentioned, these are all variable expenses, and what we're doing in this spreadsheet is we're only entering in the costs that the property owner is going to pay. So let's assume that this property has separated heat and electric meters. So that means the tenants are going to pay their own utilities. And let's just assume that there are no common spaces that need to be lit up or heated. So we're going to leave both of those lines empty. But if it is owner paid utilities, heat and electricity, you do need to put the numbers in here. In order to get these numbers, sometimes these numbers will be on the realtor's sheet, the listing sheet, but it can also make sense to request copies of Schedule E's, which is the rental schedule of tax returns of the current owners, so that you can go ahead and confirm that the information that they're providing in the MLS is correct based on historical data of what they've actually reported to the government as expenses for these items. Okay, so next we're on down to water and sewer. In our area, most properties are on town water and sewer. Some properties, though, have their own well or their own septic. So here I'm entering in the estimated cost of water and sewer for this 5-unit building. So I'm just going to estimate this at $2,000 a month. Keep in mind, I'm filling this out just for informational purposes. You do want to verify and estimate in the real world what the property expenses will be. Okay, so maintenance, grounds, and plowing. So this is just grounds maintenance. So let's put in $1,500. We live in a place that has snow, so snow removal and mowing is in there. Trash removal. Let's just estimate $1,500 for this. And other. So this would be other expenses. For example, if the property had a rented hot water heater, it's rented back from the utility company, you'd want to include those costs here. And the last line item here is maintenance, so ongoing maintenance. As buildings age, there is always going to be, small items and sometimes big items that need to be repaired or replaced. So I do recommend having a maintenance line item in here. So if you break this down per month, it could, $200 a month is allocated to ongoing maintenance. Okay, so now we've covered all of the variable expenses here. Let's hop on over to the income side. Okay, so you'll see down here in the income, I've got, I can enter information for up to 8 units. If you are looking at a property that has more than 8 units, you can just combine all the income and enter it just into one cell to make your life easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to assume rents for these units. So let's say $750, $1,000, and let's say there's one really big, really nice unit for $1,300. So you just enter in all those numbers so that the spreadsheet can calculate it. If you head down here, you'll see that there's an option for other rent. Some properties that we've looked at, rent out additional garage space, so you could enter that in here. Also down here, if the property you're looking at has a coin-op laundry, you could enter in, the monthly income from that into the spreadsheet. So let's just assume $75 a month. So you just enter that in there. Okay, so this is the last piece of the puzzle for the income section, the occupancy rate. So it's really important to have a good idea of, based on your market, how often you can expect to have your unit rented or empty. When it's empty, you're not collecting rent, and it's a good idea from the very beginning to just estimate that into this spreadsheet. So for this example, I'm going to leave the occupancy rate at 95%. So basically what that means is that we are assuming 95% of the time the unit is going to be rented. So what I've done with the spreadsheet is I've calculated it or I've made the spreadsheet calculate it so that this income that gets calculated down here has already taken into account that 5% of the time the unit is estimated to be empty. So here's your total yearly income down here. So lost opportunity. So this is where we're calculating your total cash required to purchase the property, and the spreadsheet helps you calculate, if you could have put your money somewhere else, what the lost opportunity is for earnings on that money. So if your property needed repairs or rehab, you could put that number right in here. This down payment number, it's calculated right from, up here, our information about the financing. And then the closing costs, you'll want to update. For a property of this size, I'm just going to estimate $12,000. And, that includes closing costs for the loan, property tax transfer fee, any bank fees, and title insurance. So the spreadsheet, calculates for you the total required cash to close. And then down here, it estimates for you, okay, so if you took that money and instead invested it somewhere where you could earn 3%, or you can change the number if you want, here's what your lost opportunity is on a monthly basis or an annual basis. Okay, so now we're jumping on over to the profitability analysis. So you'll see the spreadsheet does all of the heavy lifting once you enter in the numbers for your specific property. So, don't let this sheet overwhelm you. It's really designed to make your life easier and help you have a clear-cut way on how to analyze properties and compare them to each other to see what is the best way to use the cash that you have. So you'll see here, all of these numbers are based on annual numbers. So total expenses for the year, $35,684. Total income, $52,725. So the gross profit on a monthly basis, after all estimated expenses are paid, is $1,420. The gross profit per year, so we're just taking this number and multiplying it by 12, $17,041. The gross profit after taxes every year is $14,485. You'll see your gross cash on cash return. This is my favorite way of looking at properties and comparing them to each other, because this calculation here, it takes into account how much cash you have to put into this property to buy it, and it compares it directly to the positive cash flow that you receive every year. So I feel like it's the most important calculation, because it's comparing how much money did you have to put into this to how much money are you getting out of this on an annual basis. So that's my favorite way to compare properties. But you can see that there's also the gross cap rate here. We do have a spot for estimated appreciation rate in this, in Vermont. Typically properties, and especially in Chittenden County, appreciate at about 3% per year. But across the nation, those appreciation rates can really vary. So this spreadsheet, it calculates for you, okay, if the estimated appreciation rate is 2%, your property is estimated to appreciate by $10,000 every year. The principal pay down yearly, and keep in mind that these numbers will change as you get further into your loan. But for the first year, you're going to be paying down, or your tenant's rental income is going to be paying down your principal balance on your mortgage by $8,805 a year. That's pretty sweet. So then down here, you're going to update this based on your tax rate. So if you need some help figuring this out, check in with your accountant. And then depreciation is something that the government lets you depreciate your rental properties on your taxes. So it shows a paper loss because they show that your property depreciates fully over 27 and a half years, where in reality properties actually typically appreciate. So it allows you to take this paper loss, which really helps you out quite a bit on your annual taxes, you just have to keep in mind that when you go to sell that property, you're going to be taxed on the difference of what the federal government sees as the property value based on what you've depreciated so far and what the property actually sells for. So be sure to, figure out what that means for your situation. So it's called a recapture tax. So that's something that's really important, and I will certainly cover more on that at a later date. So the last item that you'll see here is the tax savings on expenses and depreciation. So that's on an annual basis. All right, so net profit after taxes. So this is a number that combines your profit after the taxes are taken out. $20,392, and you'll see down here in smaller text, yearly gain with appreciation, pay down, and profit. So it's pretty incredible. This one property by itself, between appreciation of the property, pay down of the loan, and your profit, puts $34,197, not exactly in your pocket, but it improves your net worth by that every year. Pretty cool. So, this is just a little example of why real estate investing can have such a strong impact on your life. So we're not quite done with this spreadsheet yet, because the amortization table is on this next tab. So it's pretty cool because all of these numbers up here are just pulled in from the first page that we filled out. Loan amount, annual interest rate on the loan, how long you're going to be paying the loan off for, and the number of payments per year, 12, one payment per month, estimated start date of the loan. So let's just say I'm planning to close on this loan November 1. All right, so over here you'll see scheduled payments. So that's how much you can expect to pay on the loan every month. There are 360 payments because it's a 30-year loan. And right here it tells you the total interest that you can expect to pay over the life of the loan. So over here, you'll see it takes you month by month through basically the amortization of the loan and the pay down of the loan, and how over time your principal payments will start to increase and your interest payments will start to decrease. You'll see that it's just the way amortization works. You'll see that your first payment will include $720 going to principal, and the second payment will include $722 going to principal. And on the flip side, the interest payments are going down as you get closer and closer to paying off the loan. But as you can see here, the actual monthly payment doesn't ever change as long as you keep this loan. It's just how the principal and interest is allocated. So this sheet can be really helpful, especially if you're targeting owner financing, because it helps you to determine, like, let's say, just for example, that I was looking to do an owner financing deal. I could use the information on this page to help the owner understand that he or she is playing basically is the bank in this situation. So instead of paying the bank total interest of just over $359,000, if they were willing to hold a 30-year loan at 4%, they could make the purchase price $500,000 plus $359,000 and some change. So, this is a really helpful tool, not only to analyze deals, but to also help provide information to potential owner financing deals. Now, keep in mind, most people who are willing to owner finance will not want to hold a deal for 30 years at 4%. But that doesn't mean you can't use this to help them see what it could look like for them. Oftentimes I see that owners typically want a full balloon payment where whatever's left on the loan is due, somewhere between 5 and 10 years after the purchase is made. So I hope that this has been helpful, and I am going to take you one step further on how to track all this information that you're getting, because it can be, it can be hard to keep track of all these different deals if you're running a bunch of them. So I've created this other spreadsheet called the Real Estate Freedom Tracker. And so this is really just designed to keep track of all of the important pieces of the properties that you're considering adding to your portfolio. And you can use this to compare the deals to each other. So, this is, like I said, these are the exact same Excel spreadsheets that I use in, our own investing life. So here's just an example of how you could fill it out. So just type in the property address. This is a 5-unit property. Let's say I found this today. Lead source. Let's just say I found this with a realtor multiple listing service. Financing plan. Just going to type in commercial. ROI. So I'm just going to hop on over to this spreadsheet and say our gross cash on cash return, or return on investment. I'm just going to pop that number in there. So it's 12.4%. Asking price, $500,000. So if I was analyzing this deal and I thought, okay, well, the numbers look okay, but I'd like them to be a little bit better, then I could just go ahead and type in like, hey, you know what? It'd be really sweet to get this property for $475,000. But just because I put that in here doesn't mean that that's the max I'm willing to pay. It just kind of puts it in there as, it would be really ideal if I could get it for this. So cash required to purchase this property. So we just hop on over here, $137,000. Status. So, what's the status? Let's just say we're going to see it in person next week. This just kind of helps you to keep track. So maybe if you're looking at another property and it looked good, but you needed the price to come down a little bit more, maybe you just say you're just watching it. Or if there was another property and you had made an offer but it wasn't accepted, you could just say, offer wasn't accepted. And you might be wondering why that's typing in red. In my own spreadsheet, what I do is if there's a really good deal, I highlight, and I want to remember that it's a really good one. I highlight the line and I just hit this red button so that all the letters turn red. So it kind of just pops against everything else on the page. So owner contact details. Sometimes you'll be working directly with the owner, sometimes you won't be. So, just put the contact information in here for whoever you're dealing with to potentially purchase this place. Okay, so as you get going on this, I think it's a really good exercise to practice running numbers and compare the deals. So, if you haven't done any of this before, why not just pick out, 3 properties that you find online? Or, if you want to take it one step further, I definitely recommend getting hooked up with a realtor so that they can set you up on a listing cart where you can get real live listings as they become available sent to your inbox. So I hope that all this information is helpful to you. I hope you are taking strides towards your real estate goals and building more freedom in your life. And can't wait to hear thoughts, questions, and continue the conversation on this awesome community we're building. So thanks so much and have a fantastic day.